Now, before we get into this quite frankly unnecessarily long episode of Audio Pizza, apologies for the delay. Garth wasn't available to take on the edit for this episode, but you know what? We can forgive him because on the 29th of March, the beautiful people that are Garth and Geordie welcomed 4 pounds 6 ounces baby daughter Ella into the world. Congratulations, you beauties. We love you.
Letters fly off a spinning globe from the US, UK, and Australia to spell SGK Studios present. The words dissolve to show a lightsaber, a takeaway box, and wind chimes. The 3 objects spin and transform into a retro speaker in the form of a pizza. The words, an audio pizza production, appear and fade away.
If you listened to only one episode of Audio Pizza this year, this should be it. We have spared no expense, literally, to send our correspondent to CSUN, and we're going to hear his stories and the latest news coming up next on Audio Pizza. Hello and welcome to Audio Pizza. Kayaker here from the warming northeast in springtime where the daylight is almost equal to night. And it's warming up, and I'm having fun, and we've got so much news to report to you this month. And joining us from the United Kingdom, His Majesty's Empire, Shaun. How are you, Shaun, up there in Manchester in the glorious shed?
Thank you very much, Kayaker. Firstly, before you get me shot, fired, or killed, of course, I must thank AMI and Double Tap and Glidance and Be My Eyes for making it possible for me to attend the CSUN 2025 accessibility event. It was great. Thank you so much. And, of course, here as well, he's a king in his own mind. It's Garth. Hello, Garth.
I don't know about that. Well, like I said, we spared no expense whatsoever in getting you to
Yes. Absolutely none.
No, absolutely not. Look, I know we're not allowed to talk about the weather, but it is starting to get a little bit chilly here. And
Will you please stop it?
This is particularly relevant because...
No, it's not.
Shut up, Shaun. We had our air conditioning checked a little while ago. We had to get something fixed on the... We've got 2 systems, a heating and a cooling. Had to get something fixed on the cooling. So that's all good. Got to fix it. While you're here, just check the heating. Okay. You've got cracks in your heater. It's probably been putting carbon monoxide into your air. We're taking the heating out. They had to turn off the heating. They had to sort of isolate it, as they call it. It's a gas burner type one for central heating.
Heat pump. That's the future.
Yeah. The government's trying to get us to move over, and now we are moving over to something else. Because
Hang on. You live in paradise. Why isn't everything powered by the sun? Isn't solar the answer?
It's an answer. It's not one that's been currently used on this property.
Oh, I see. Climate change is just a hoax. Is that what you're saying, Garth? Climate denier Garth. Anyway, moving on. I want to pick up on something. No, I'm leaving it there, Garth. You can't rebuttal that. Can I just say, Kayaker,
yes.
It's your turn now. If we have to continue using iMessage because of your, I'm going to say it, stubbornness, Kayaker,
Yep.
I am going to kill you. It is awful. Every time we try and record an audio message using iMessage, it's just terrible. Voiceovers go out. Everyone's trying to find the stop button. Oh, look, now it says audio recording instead of dictate. How did that? It's ridiculous. What's wrong with WhatsApp?
It's not what's wrong with WhatsApp. I actually went and downloaded WhatsApp, and I went to read its privacy agreement and data sharing policies, and my jaw dropped.
Why did your jaw drop?
Well, it was even worse than I expected it to be. Your mobile telephone number is the gold ticket item for all these marketing companies because people don't change their cell phone anymore. It used to change companies and, you got a new phone number, constantly switching service providers. So everything that you do, if they can tie it to your number, they can build this very nice portfolio about everything that you're interested in, your locations, this and that. And some people don't care. Some people don't mind using the free stuff and not being tracked and being used. But I'm just not into willingly giving up information to people.
Wait, what?
Location.
So you want to make our lives harder simply because you want to keep your privacy and security?
Basically, yes.
Selfish.
He doesn't want tailored ads. That's all it is. He doesn't want tailored ads.
Yeah, well,
What's wrong with tailored ads?
not
What are
just-
you looking at? What are you ashamed about, Kayaker? We're all open here. Everything's groovy.
Well-
What's the matter?
I'm just going to be bombarded with kayak ads and sailboat ads and paddles and PFDs and all that
PFDs?
personal flotation devices. You probably know them as life jackets or
Oh.
Waymast.
Oh, sorry.
West, okay?
Captain Hook here.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry.
Yo ho, a pirate's life for me.
So much has happened in the last month since we've recorded. Number one, Apple has released new hardware. Dun, dun, dun. Garth, any buyer's remorse now that the MacBook Air M4 is out?
A small amount, because I knew this MacBook Air, smaller, lighter, it's still got the M4. You know, the MacBook Pro that I've got, I love it. Make no mistakes. But I would have been just as happy, I'm sure, with the far cheaper, almost as powerful, much lighter MacBook Air.
Would you, though?
Yeah.
I mean, you say just as powerful. Is it?
Almost. I can't remember which chip I got in this one now, but it might be down a core or two or something very minor. Still an M4. The main difference is no fan. So if you are doing something really intensive, but when has the fan ever kicked on this thing? Like every now and then when I'm rendering out a big project, it'll kick on for a second or two. So 99% of the time, I don't think I would notice any difference in the actual speed of the computer between the MacBook Air and this MacBook Pro. So yeah, a cheaper MacBook Air, which is also more conveniently sized, would be amazing. Not that this thing's huge or anything, it's great. I love it. But
I believe the answer is yes, I have buyer's remorse, Kayaker.
Okay.
No, I don't have buyer's
To
remorse. I have I have purchaser's remorse in that I can't have that one as well.
He wants two computers. Okay. Now the truth comes out. Well, I definitely agree that the new MacBook Air, they've increased the RAM, and there was a bit of a scandal. They were selling the refurb Pros with less RAM for more than the new MacBook Air, and they fixed that problem because the RAM increased. So if anyone is interested in getting a Mac, and I personally, if you're new to the Mac, I still would not recommend a Mac, but if you're a Mac expert and you understand what you're getting into with the voiceover bugs on a Mac, I think the MacBook Air M4 right now is the only best choice for you.
It's a hands down an easy sell. You know what I mean?
It is.
It's just, if you need a Mac, just get the MacBook Air.
We also had new versions or a spec bump in the Mac Studio. I suppose none of us has got a Mac Studio here.
No.
No.
No, it's a bit
No
rich
need.
for my blood.
Yes.
Way too much power for what I do these days. So, but yeah, I was reading an article though that you can, if you max that sucker out, you can actually run some of the best AI models locally on it. It's pretty
Yeah.
slow, but it will run. It's got enough RAM and power to get through on some of that. So
How can it be pretty slow? That's ridiculous. You can have up to a half a terabyte of RAM.
yeah, but these things are huge models. So
I don't know. How much would you have to spend to get something that would actually run it locally? We're talking $100,000, not a maxed out
Oofed.
thing would be like $10,000, and to actually run them properly, you'd spend $100,000.
yeah.
Okay.
Usually some
Well,
big
that's
server
out of the
farm.
window.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. So to have a consumer device for $10,000 that you can pretty much do it on, is pretty special.
I think we took a look at the maxed out spec on the M3 Ultra and it came in at 15,000 US.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's,
Oh yeah, 15. Okay, so 10, 15. I exaggerated.
It's pretty, either way, it's out of my price bracket.
Yeah,
Let me just say
It's a
that.
lot.
I did take a look at one in the Apple store. I gotta say, it's a lovely bit of kit. I mean, just from a tactile thing, just from a nerd, ooh. That is
I know.
sexy. It's hefty, weighs it. It's just like a block of aluminium. It is just,
Yeah.
it is really nice. But yeah, that's the pipe dream, I think. Can I say as well, while I was in the Apple store, I checked out the iPads as well. And every time I see an iPad, it's like, oh, I want one of these. I just, I just love the feel of them, the design, that squared off edges. I really like that.
They are very
Every
sexy.
time. They are just beautiful. And I even looked at the pros, obviously, and everything, but I also just looked at the bog standard, as I'm sure Apple love it to be referred to, just the iPad. And again, man, it felt so nice. I was expecting some, I don't know what I was expecting. It's like the older iPad design, but It just felt really nice. I would be more than happy with the entry-level iPad, I think. But I've just got no justification for getting one.
No.
The screen real estate does nothing for me, so why would I? It's just a case, if money wasn't an object, I would have one of those.
Yeah. Did you look at the Mac Minis as well?
Yes, I did, of course.
It's all so nice at the moment. Apple hardware at the moment is sort of the best it's ever been. And I guess it should, of course it should be the best it's ever been. But we went through, we're still getting over those years when Johnny Ive was trying to take the ports out of everything. The vaunted Johnny Ive, I think, really made a bit of a mess of Apple hardware for a while there at the end.
Yeah, still getting over the keyboard butterfly keys.
Keys, yeah.
Yeah.
Kayaker's still getting out of not having a headphone jack on the phone. I shouldn't have brought that up, actually.
Yeah, forget it. He'll never get over that.
But the hardware at the moment is just like they're hitting it out of the park. It's great.
They are. It is sexy. And you could say a lot of that is down to the switch over from Intel processors.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
with the Mac side of things, yeah.
There's so much, the thermal throttling, controlling that heat was a major issue for a long time. But Apple, they did such a great job. You got to give them props for it. You're absolutely right. The Mac Mini just looked like an Apple TV, just thicker. Like
exactly.
1.5 on top of each other. It was just such a nice, simple design. Really cool. If I was going to get into Mac again, that's definitely the one I would go for.
Yeah. Like you said, you'd be super happy just with the bog standard, iPad.
Yes.
And again, like with the MacBook Air, it would do 99% of the time. You'd have no concerns about the speed of that older processor. It'd be totally fine, compared to getting a Pro.
The one last piece of hardware I think that was released that you have mentioned was the iPhone 16e came out right before the hardware. So,
yes.
Did you get a chance to take a look at that, Shaun, at the store?
Yes, I did. Yeah, and I knew, the design, by the way, fits right in with the other iPhone 16 range. It's, again, squared off, really nice design, brings it bang up to date, very nice. The only reason I knew it was the iPhone 16e was because it was on a stand that wasn't MagSafe. All the others were floating 6 inches off the counter. That one was just resting back on a little stand. But still felt very nice. Still think it's a bit overpriced, though, to be honest. Take it down $150, maybe, I think.
So if someone's looking for an iPhone these days, what's your go-to suggestion? Would you suggest the 16, the Pro?
That's tricky. I think the 16e is a great phone. And it depends if you bought into the ecosystem already. I've got MagSafe chargers in a lot of the rooms, and I would miss that. I do like MagSafe. I hate how many times I've put a wireless charging phone down on a pad and then come back to it and found out I didn't have it lined up properly. It's absolutely ridiculous. Here he goes.
Do you use a case?
No.
Oh, you're a naked.
I'm a naked guy, absolutely.
Wow. Okay.
I flaunt it, baby. It's beautiful.
Well, okay.
I'm going to show it off.
Then your comment is valid.
Thank you.
But look, if you're normally a person that puts a case on the phone anyway, I wouldn't be too concerned about not having the MagSafe, because you just put a MagSafe case on and it's going to make the lineup happen for you. It's still got the coil in there to charge. You can
absolutely
still charge.
Right.
So just use a MagSafe case and you're there.
That's very true. Also missing is the ultra-wideband radio. Do we care about that?
Hardly ever.
No, I
Depends
tend
if
to
you're
agree as well.
Looking for your AirTags all the time.
Yeah, and normally what you end up doing is hitting the thing to say play a sound, and that's still going to work just the same.
I have to admit, I've done play the sound many times, but do you think they could have picked a worse sound sequence for that play sound beep? Because I swear, I think it's coming from one direction and they changed the tone and it's coming from another one. I can never find where the heck the damn thing is coming from because the tone isn't constant. It changes. It's not very good for someone who can't see, I think. It's horrible.
It is tricky, yes. It seems to be echoing from everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, wait, I thought it was up here, down there.
Yeah.
You know what? I would recommend the 16E, I think.
Yeah, I think I would too.
My only cutoff is if you expect to do anything more advanced with the LiDAR sensors, because you're going to have to go to the Pro for that. But yeah, I think the 16E and the 16 are very similar for the blind user, and only if you want MagSafe, you can switch to the 16. And if you need the LiDAR, then go for the Pro. So can't go wrong, I don't think. So there you go. That's Apple's hardware releases in the last month. Okay, before we jump into the CSUN information, I just want to respond to some listener feedback. Brian sent us an email pointing out a great use for AI that we didn't mention in last month. And that was the use of, if you have user manuals or your own documentation, if you upload those into your favorite AI model, they can give you very detailed information about that thing. And he suggested using, I think, Reaper manuals or any type of user manual. You can just ask it for the right sequence or how to do something, and it will spit out the answer very efficiently for you. And I think that's a great tip for anyone out there who's using AI models.
Such a good idea.
Thanks, Brian, for that feedback.
Yes, very good, Brian. And specifically as well, he mentioned, you can ask for, what's the keyboard shortcut for so-and-so, right? In his case, he mentioned Reaper. And it will give you a generic one. But in the case of Reaper, obviously, there's the Osara key map, which is different, right? And it may not reference that. So you can load in the list of keyboard shortcuts for Osara for Reaper, and it will reference that directly, which is very, very cool. It's a great tip, Brian.
So basically, anyone that allows you to upload a PDF or a document will do that. And the trick is there is a limited storage space as far as tokens of what it can remember. But if you upload a document, it usually will build that and allow you to reference it. There's actually a fun game you can do with AI models, and that's sort of a secret word game. If you have a conversational LLM and you say, like, okay, here's our secret word game. Every time I say snuffleupagus, you need to say big bird. And that will work for a while, but as the conversation goes on and as the tokens sort of drift off into the distance, the AI will have no clue. So you can play that game and sort of see how long the memory lasts.
That's
that'll
really
give you
cool.
Sense for, it's just you can give it a shot. There's a fun thing you can do. Just sometimes it takes a while for her to admit the AI to play the game, but when it does, you can sort of see when it falls off and it
or him
recycles. Sorry, it.
Oh, it's not very nice.
Well, no, it's a cool way to see if there is a difference between the free tier and the paid tier and the different models. Yeah. It's a really cool idea, that. Also, Brian did mention in his email the prompt that he's building, like a morning prompt he builds so that he can get all his sport information from all his favorite sports teams. I don't do sports, but I thought that was really interesting as well, the importance of building a prompt. And I think some people don't really, it's almost like I write a sentence and that's enough, but you can go as deep and as detailed as you like with these prompts, and they can be really useful, and they can make a huge difference in the results that you get.
Oh my goodness. I just have to tell you a little AI story of the week for me, which I'm so happy about it. So
he's getting emotional. Everyone sit back and relax.
Once upon a time, down under, here's our story.
So someone had mentioned on a group how it's sort of a bit annoying in Reaper, the way that you change the zoom level, which affects how much you nudge things by and grow things and move things by, right? So you can nudge things along a track, you can grow items, you can do all this sort of stuff. And it's all dependent on the zoom level. And there, when you do it normally, it goes through these random numbers of, it increases or decreases by 20%, basically. So you end up with all these random numbers. So you don't really know how long in seconds one pixel is going to be from, 0.73642 of a second, or is it 0.007248 of a second? Really unuseful numbers. Anyway, so I thought, I wonder if I could just set some standard zooms. And basically ended up getting ChatGPT to write me a Lua script for Reaper that I've now loaded into Reaper, and I'm thinking about replacing the standard grow and shrink so that it just goes, 1 pixel per second, 10, 50, 100, 200, 1,000. And then I know it's on 1,000, it's going to be 1,000th of a second. It's on 1, it's going to be 1 second. It's on 10, it's on 1/10 of a second.
Very cool.
So I can, and basically I've just got this text document, which is the Lua script, and I can put whatever numbers I like in that. There's a list of comma-separated numbers. And if I want to change what zoom levels I move between, I just go into that text document, open it up, but I've got it set the way I want it. And yeah, but anyone could use it and just put in whatever numbers they like for predefined, as many as they like, predefined zoom cycles, zoom levels.
How cool is that?
That's so good to be able to just go, there's a problem, I want to solve it. Thanks, ChatGPT, problem solved. Also, at the same time, I thought, how do I, another thing when I'm editing these podcasts, the way I do it, it ends up with these little fragments of audio spotted throughout the project, where it might be just a little sound in the background of one person talking. So it's hard to hear them, but they're in there. So I've got it to create another script that I just press a button. It finds the next fragment of audio under 1 second, solos it, plays it, and then leaves my edit cursor with that one ready to delete. So I can just go click,
Very
delete,
cool.
click, click. It just jumps forward through the project to find the next item under a second and plays it to me. So that it's just like, that's going to save me so much time in editing. It's so good.
And it's so, normally you'd have to think, okay, technically I've got to go through this step by step by step and sort of almost flow chart it, right, to figure out the process of it. But you just ask AI to do it and it spits out. It's absolutely amazing. That's so cool.
It really was. I mean, yes, I had to go backwards and forwards a few times and refine things and realize that I was copying a comma in that I shouldn't have been copying in and, stuff like that. But it was also achievable. As for somebody who doesn't know how to program at all. It's great.
California, here we come.
So, as I said in the intro, we spared no expense to send our correspondent from Manchester, England to Anaheim, California, running around, getting audio. And we literally spared no expense.
We didn't spare any expense. However, we do recognize that Be My Eyes,
yes, glidance,
as well as
AMI,
glidance and AMI all spared an expense.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And if you want a total rundown of my experience of CSUN, you can go to doubletaponair.com/CSUN. That's doubletaponair.com/CSUN.
And I have been listening to all the double taps.
Oh, have you?
Just recently, just to hear the CSUN stuff. There's too much of it. I can't normally do it.
Wait. Yeah, let's roll back there. Rewind. What do you mean? Just to hear the CSUN stuff, and just recently been listening to Double Tap.
As I said, I think I might have mentioned this to you once or twice before. Yeah. It's just so much. I couldn't possibly. And I'm not even going to lie, one of the things I use podcasts for is to go to sleep, right? If I put you and Stephen on, I don't fall asleep. I'm listening. It's too interesting.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that was a great get out there. Well done, Garth. Thank you.
So I think I'll just keep that for when I'm going to listen to it, while I'm awake, and then I never do.
Well, I will say
I have a different approach, Shaun. I think you are the soap opera of the podcast, and we are the crucible. We are the lab. We boil it down to the nuts and bolts and give you just the critical pieces that the audience needs.
Yes, that's like the weather.
That's what's happened so far in this episode. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yes. No, I was lucky enough to go to CSUN 2025, and I got to say, my first time going, I was blown away. I thought it was so cool. There's quite a few events we can go to now. Site Village here in the UK, and you got the NFB, you got the ACB, you got a few different options to get hands-on with tech. But this was my first time at CSUN, and CSUN's always been almost the big daddy of them all, and I can totally see why. The atmosphere was great. The social side was fantastic. Met so many people, and of course, it was so many exhibitors there. It was really good. I was really impressed.
It was interesting to see the number of presenters and ones that you weren't expecting, like Sony, for example. I was not expecting Sony to be, to have a booth at CSUN.
Yeah, exactly. So I managed to get an interview with Sony, and I kicked the interview off by saying, I'll be honest with you, and this may be unfair, but when I think of Sony, I just think of TVs and PlayStation. But they gave me a tour around before the interview, and it was actually really cool. Of course, you had the Aibo, the robotic dog, which I've always sort of kind of gone, yeah, okay, whatever. But actually, when you get hands-on with it, it's just,
you kind of liked it,
God.
didn't you? You liked it, huh?
I did.
And you know what?
liked
You
it.
don't have to take it to do a poop.
Yeah,
Exactly. You don't have to pick up after it. And, you think, robotic dogs, whatever. But, there was just so many, the robotic design of it, it was just so, what's the word I'm looking for?
Articulated?
Articulated, yes, thank you. I was thinking that makes it sound like it spoke well. No, it was so well articulated, everything moved, and it just felt really responsive. So, actually, I've always said, I don't really get this technology as social companions. We've talked about it before
I
with
know, it
AI.
feels a bit creepy, doesn't it?
It always made me sort of uneasy and a little bit, it almost seems like we're shifting responsibility away from actual humans taking responsibility. But in that case, absolutely. I had 5 minutes with it. So maybe after, an hour, you think it's just repeating the same patterns. But they seem pretty, sure that the intelligence, the AI in it is always updating. So, yeah, I was quite impressed with that. But secondly, I went on to the cameras, and I talked to L. Dean, was his name, named after Elvis Presley and James Dean. Cool. He was a blind guy who was in charge of accessibility in the cameras department. And cameras, I always thought, I've seen recently there's been some move to add screen readers to it so you can access the menus on still cameras and camcorders. But actually, he was really passionate about it, and he showed me some of the stuff there, like you can have a larger external monitor, almost like a iPad mini sized external viewfinder. Right, and you can magnify it and things like that. That's really cool for low vision.
Okay.
They've got these laser projector viewfinders. So if he said it's about 30% of eye conditions that it can help with, where it just projects directly onto the retina. And people say that they can hold the camera up to their eyes, and it improves their everyday vision as well. So I thought that was really cool. And of course, implementing screen readers into the actual cameras themselves. And it's something I've sort of dismissed again, like Aibo the dog. Cameras, accessibility, it's almost like the mainstream approach as well. You're blind, why would you care, I kind of had that attitude myself, but once he was showing me some of the features, I thought, yeah, that's really cool. They also had an accessible kiosk that's been installed in over 900 Best Buys in the US. And again, audio description for describing products, fully braille and tactile labeled, play buttons, skip forward, skip back. Just really nicely done.
Okay.
Something, again, Sony are doing that? I wouldn't have even thought about that.
I know. Yeah, very cool.
And of course, accessible TVs, very good. They also had over-the-counter hearing aids. And when I think of hearing aids, I always think of the ones, like my mum's got, or, the sort of massive over the back of the ear ones. But these were so small, it was absolutely ridiculous. Now, they weren't cheap, don't get me wrong, but they were tiny. And they also had another pair which just looked like earbuds. There would be no way to distinguish between that and, your average earbud. So for people that do worry about, because there is still a stigma when it comes to using something like that. So people may have been worried. There was an option there. So yeah, I was really impressed with Sony.
Today's episode of Audio Pizza brought to you by Sony.
Oh, I wish. Yes, if they want to send me a 55-inch TV, that would be great. Yeah, but no, they were one of the first big name companies to attend CSUN as well, which I didn't know. LG were also there as well. A lot of the things that LG were showing...
Same sorts of things?
Well, no, they were showing more the physical adaptations to things like being able to open cookers, dishwashers, turning the dials on, on various things, actually. Think of your washing machine, but easy ways to turn the dial, like a refrigerator where, to open the door, you actually kicked it. And the door would open. At least it did when I kicked it. No, so there was a lot
you
of
weren't
things.
supposed to do that.
It just flew open like
You're
the
not the
Fonz. I
Fonz,
was.
come on.
But a lot of things from motor difficulties. It was really cool. But again, it was just nice to see the big names there. It wasn't just the likes of Humanware, which obviously, all those assistive tech companies that we've known for years and years that do a great job. But, to see the big names actually taking an interest, it was cool.
And I think, LG, white goods accessibility, I think, is a real thing that needs work. So it's great to hear that, there is thought and actual concern coming from the company side.
Yeah.
In terms of white goods accessibility, because so many machines now, like washing machines and things, are just not accessible.
Well, LG is an interesting example. I actually own an LG washer and drying, and it falls a little bit short, and it's almost the same problem that we have with AI models and coming off the guardrails. I am not allowed to start my washing machine through the phone. I have to touch a touchscreen button physically on the washing machine
itself.
Yeah, because heaven forbid, little baby crawls in there. It's like as if I'm blind and it's going to make any difference whether I'm usually right there with my phone in front of the machine anyway, but it's one of those safety features, and it's almost analogous to, I said this before, I think, to like child-proof medicine bottles. It's great if you have children in the house or something to protect, but heaven forbid the senior who doesn't have the strength to open the bottle, you're denying them the medicine. And I feel like to protect one class of people from stupidity, they hurt another class of people to allow them to use these devices efficiently.
Stupidity, that's a little bit harsh, isn't
He's
it?
gone very right-wing suddenly, hasn't he?
Oh, yeah. The world's gone woke, says Kayaker.
Yes.
No,
in order to start my washing machine, right? I'm sorry, I need to just mention this. It's
okay.
In order to start my washing machine, the door has to be closed. Okay, if I'm closing the door on something alive in my washing machine at that moment in time, I think I would notice it. I'm not sure that's a huge problem to fix.
This might not be the reason why they've made the decision that you need to be physically present with your machine to actually turn it on. It mightn't be just for the use case that a living thing has crawled into it. There may be other ends as well. But
perhaps.
Wouldn't you have done your research a bit more beforehand and not bought one that you had to touch a touchscreen panel on?
I thought I had because of the app, and I thought I could override.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of options out there. There really isn't. I went to the appliance store, and I walked through a lot of those things. And yes, I was able to get around it because at least on this particular model, the power on button is the exact same spot. So I had to do the old-fashioned solution of these wonderful Diddy dots that Shaun recommended at the Christmas edition ones. You stick the bumpy dot on it and
bumpy dots.
No, they should just come out of the box working with physical buttons or whatever. There's just
But it falls so short. And I'll compare that to my Bosch dishwasher. My Bosch dishwasher has that same feature of you have to push the button on the door in order to start it. Mm-hmm. However, you can override it if you jump through certain hoops. So I have the ability to essentially remove the child-proof safety cap, for that elderly. So, and that solves my problem, and I control it through my app, and it's great. So,
I don't want to have to use an app to use my dishwasher or my washing machine. That's not, to me, that is not a way of making. Look, yes, it does make it accessible. It makes it more accessible. But I want the device itself. I should be able to interact with the physical device to actually. I'm stacking my dishwasher. I've got my hands all dirty, whatever, because I'm, stacking the dishwasher. I want to press a button and it works. We got a new dishwasher about 2 years ago now, and thankfully, we have to hit one button, turn it on, hit another button, it starts on auto or whatever it does, and it works. That's all I want to be able to do.
That's interesting that you want the accessibility on the device itself, and I see smart devices and smart apps as being a way to make mainstream devices accessible to us.
Yes, it is. It's a way to make inaccessible mainstream devices accessible.
Yes. It's
Let's
transitional.
just make the bloody device accessible.
We can have both, right? I mean, it just makes
absolutely.
for a better interface.
Better, best.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah. It is annoying though, and you're absolutely right what you said before. The kitchen is the sort of the last front line really when it comes to accessibility. Of course, it's not perfect everywhere else, but at least everywhere else it seems like it's been recognised and been acknowledged. And there's even legislation, for certain other technologies. But when it comes to white goods, washing machines, and whatever else, it seems like whatever. Blind people don't wash, it's cool. So
got servants in that, right? No,
yeah, exactly.
Sure.
But in your case, Kayaker, something like with the let's say it is they refer to it as a child safety feature. There may be other reasons, as Garth said, but if that is okay, it's on by default. But maybe there is a toggle there where you can, under accessibility, for example, I can't press this button. Let me turn that off. Would be a cool thing.
I wish there was. I have been able to find it. So, if anyone else out there knows about the LG, start, and maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think there's a way to disable that.
When you wake up in the morning and the light has hurt your head, the first thing you do when you get up out of bed is hit that streets a running and try to beat the masses. Go get yourself some cheap sunglasses.
The other thing which a lot of people were excited about, of course, was the Echo Vision smart glasses from Giga.
Yes.
They had some there we could actually try. We've spoken about them before. We've talked to them on Double Tap. It's always great to actually get hands-on and see what it can actually do. Now, I will say they had pre-production models there that were kind of delicate, They were sort of hand-glued that very morning. But
that's
the
fine.
actual... Yeah, which is fine, of course. The design was very nice. Felt very Meta Ray-Ban-y. It was very much just sunglasses, nothing out of the ordinary there. They did feel very nice. And it was just like having ChatGPT on your face, basically. It was responsive. It was, for example, I asked, the usual. I put them on and said, tell me what's in front of me. It gave me a description, including what the people were wearing. Skin tone, I think, in one case, which is very unusual. Talking about guardrails.
Yep.
I mean, you don't want to upset anyone or offend
You can't even
anyone.
ask the freaking hair color.
No, that's right. So
Nice of them.
it was very, very impressive. As I said, it wasn't a long wait to get a response, and it worked really well. I only had a few minutes testing them out, so I can't really say, how good they would be in real world for many other tasks. But I've got to say, it did make me think there may be an alternative now to the Ray-Bans. These are a decent price. There is a subscription, I think, that goes along with these. Once you do pay off the one-off fee, I think the pre-order price is around $450 US.
That's pretty good.
Due out sometime in June or July. Yeah, I did actually think, you know what, I am interested in these. I'm going to keep a closer eye on the Echo Vision. So they were nice.
Excellent. How did you find the audio? And I guess CSUN is not a real world situation, but...
Not a great place to listen. But yeah, absolutely fine. I didn't listen to any music, so I can't really say... Because I really like the Meta Ray-Bans audio. I think they sound great. So I can't really tell from a music point of view, but the voice was very clear, very loud, and it was absolutely fine. Talking of smart glasses as well, kind of. I also tried out something called I believe they're called Tammy. Don't know why. From Lighthouse Tech. Now, again, I tried these on and they just seemed like normal sunglasses. The arms were squared off a little bit and slightly thicker, but nothing outrageous. I think you could get away with them being slightly flashy sunglasses.
Grow your hair a bit longer.
That's right. And again, this was a prototype almost. They haven't got the final design actually out to try. But they had a little protrusion coming up from the arms behind your ears, just going up a centimetre and a half or something to the side of your head. And these were the vibrating navigation glasses that we've seen for decades, right? Those, if they detect an obstacle in front of you, they vibrate. Closer you are, the stronger and the faster the pulsing of the vibration. As I said, these aren't anything new. But what were different about these is that instead of using sonar, these use radar emitters at the end of the arms, facing forward, obviously. And there's one in each arm. So you could get a feeling of whether, the XY positioning of it. You know what I mean? You could, is there a space to the left or right of that? Which was nice. And I actually just find them really, I don't know, there was something about them. I tried them and I was talking to the guy about them, and, you know, they were vibrating like crazy because it was face to face, and then just turn a little bit and the vibrations just dimmed away instantly. And I could tell, you know, there was nothing in front of me for at least a few steps. And you could change the distance, you know, how far it was detecting obstacles by clicking the button on the hinge. Again, Meta Ray-Ban
so
style.
that wasn't something you had to sort of use an app to adjust or whatever. You
No,
could just change
no.
It. Yeah.
There may have been an app where you could set what those different, you know, a double click for a certain distance. I don't know, but that's how you did it there. And I must admit, you know, usually I've tried these and found them kind of useful, but not really enough. But these, I thought, I really want to try these out some more. I really want to take these outside, you know, and try and get past that car parked on the pavement and things like that and see how they work. So, I thought those were really interesting. Again, price point, $1,500.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which is...
and if you have to take your Meta Ray-Bans or your other glasses off to put those on...
we're missing a head. Yeah. But again, it's just the technology just seemed to work very well. And again, you know, it's really hard to make that sort of conclusion after 5 minutes, you know, on an exhibition floor, but cool.
That's okay. It's just really cool to hear all the different things that are out there and that people are trying. Did they say what the benefit of using radar over some of the other, you know, like sonar that typically we've seen in these devices, other than it being more expensive?
Yes. Well, he did mention that the radar was less... or in fact, completely tolerant to weather. It doesn't matter, you know, totally waterproof. It doesn't matter if it's raining. It doesn't matter if it's foggy. I don't know if sonar makes a difference to that either, but I'm assuming the rain, in heavy rain, maybe that would make a difference. Radar is not affected by that. Apparently, it's more responsive than sonar as well. And maybe that's why it did feel really nice and really responsive when I was using it. Maybe it is down to that technology. But that's something you'd have to look into a bit more. But as I said, for a technology that's been around for the longest time, as in using vibrations to give you feedback of obstacles, I thought, for the first time, I think this could actually be really usable.
Right, let's move on to Braille Tech. What did you see in the world of Braille displays?
No.
New Braille displays.
That's my Achilles heel. You know, I'm not really a Braille user, but there was so much there. I saw some amazing bits of kit. I saw the Monarch from Humanware. And, I mean, it's an amazing thing, right? And they were demoing the candidate release of eBraille, or eBRF.
eBRF,
for a file format. And I think it was Treasure Island, the book they were demoing, you know, and like at the start you had a tactile image of the island, and you could have text around it. It was just really, really cool. Obviously, I'm not a Braille user, so I can't really talk too much about it, but I just thought it's just really nice to see this innovation going on, and it sort of moved across as well, because there was also something I saw called the Activator. I'm sure you've heard of that. Yeah,
tell me about that. No, I haven't actually. I heard you mention it on Double Tap.
On Double Tap. Yeah, the Activator.
And I haven't heard of that one before.
So this is a QWERTY. Instead of having the Perkins keys, it has the QWERTY keys, but you can also just spin it round and then have the Perkins keys on the other side. But more than that, more than just the input, the Braille cells themselves have something called ATC, which I'm trying to remember, is Active Tactile Control. Mm-hmm. So it knows where your fingers are on the Braille cells. So
as you get to jump up and hit the routing keys just above them, you just knows where
exactly
you are.
Right. And as you get to the end of the line, it will auto pan across. And as you move your hands back, it knows where your fingers are. It was just, I don't know. Again, it was really nice to see the innovation in Braille, because every time I think of Braille displays, it's almost like, this stuff hasn't changed in years. And I know that's not, strictly true, but
not strictly true, but
there seems to be just so much more movement when it comes to this sort of stuff. Of course, the price point of the Monarch is what, 15,000. The Activator was around 12,000. But this, I mean, this is productivity.
Whoa.
This is educational. It's but it was so well made. I also
The Activator, 12,000.
Yes.
So is it a single line display? It's not a multi-line like some of these other.
I believe that was an 80 cell, the $12,000 one.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
So it was it was a big old thing. I
A
also,
big new thing, in fact.
yes, it was. I also I went to the Orbit booth, of course, and had a look at the Q20s and 40s. Very nice keyboards on them, I've got to say, considering, because I have Stephen Scott from Double Tap has the Mantis,
Yes.
and that's what, a $3,000 device, and it's very nice. But I've got to say, and Stephen said this as well, the keyboard on the Orbit Q20 and 40 was actually a little bit nicer. It was a very nice keyboard for around, what does that start at? $1,000 or something, and goes up to the 40 cell display. So that was very nice. But that was it for the Braille displays. As I said, I'm not a Braille user, but on the Orbit stand, I also saw the Orbit player, which I thought you might be interested in, Garth.
No, there's already 2 or 3. There's a couple of products like that in the market. I did get the Sense player. Thought, oh, cool, one we can actually install our own Android apps on and do other stuff with. I've never used it. Oh, well, I have used it, but it doesn't hold me.
Rarely use it.
Yeah, it's my phone. I'm just going to do everything like that on my phone anyway.
Yeah, but isn't that my argument for everything? I mean, that's what I used to say about the Victor Reader Stream, right? All
Same
that
thing.
sort of thing.
I've got one sitting in a cupboard.
So why do you keep getting one?
Well, I've only had one Victor Reader Stream
And a Sense player.
And then it was about 5-6 years ago, 5 or 6 years out of date. The Victor Reader. I didn't update the Victor Reader, and I thought, okay, let's give this new Sense player a try because of the Android, as I said. The possibility of adding additional apps and putting Audible directly on there, and you can do all of that. But the interface, the button interface, doesn't really appeal to me now that I'm used to the touchscreen interface.
That's interesting. Yeah, okay. That's the age-old argument, isn't it? I can do everything on my phone, why would I? But then it's always nice to have a secondary device. I did get to play with the player anyway, and I was quite impressed. It was a nice size, nice and small. Obviously, it was like a plastic casing, but it still felt very sturdy. Buttons were nice, tactile 5, obviously. Going through the menu system seemed nice and responsive, uses the vocalizer voice, support for internet radio, podcasts, the various book services depending on what country you're in. There's a button on there for a voice recorder. So all the basic functionalities of the other standalone, what do we call them?
What does it have that's different? Or is it the price point? What's the why does it exist?
Why this one? Because of the price point. Now it's not been finalized yet, but they're saying $300 US. So what's that compared? I actually don't know. What's that compared to the others?
I don't know. I'm really not sure how much cheaper that is then.
Yeah, well, perhaps our listeners can check that out, tell us. I honestly, I don't know. I thought it was actually one of the cheapest options out there compared to something like the Victor Reader Stream or the Sense player. But yeah, honestly, I don't know. But it was a nice little device, and a lot of people were very impressed with it as it was being shown around the booth. So that was cool.
I'm just thrilled that Garth has come around to my way of thinking of the cost of being blindness, and he's more interested in mainstream devices than the customized devices.
Well, whether it's assistive tech or mainstream, it's not important as how useful is that device to me.
Yeah, I know.
I will say, though, I mean, having 11 hours on an airplane with no internet service does make you think, you know what, actually, I kind of wish I did have one of those in my back pocket, even if it was only used once a year whilst traveling, because...
well, I'm not throwing mine away.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sticking with Braille, though, I did see the Braille Doodle, which actually I thought was really cool. I've heard about it, obviously, for a while now, but actually getting hands-on with it, everyone calls it the Braille Etch-a-Sketch, right? Because it does feel a little bit like that. It's a handheld, sort of the size of A4 or an iPad sort of size. And it's full of these ball bearings, and it has a stylus on the side, and you can, you take the stylus out, magnetizes, and the ball bearings stick out, and you can make tactile drawings. On the flip side of it was like the Braille alphabet, and you could practice that. I just thought
teaching device, yeah.
A teaching device, yeah, for kids, sort of making the whole tactile experience, getting people used to Braille, getting kids used to Braille. I just thought it was a really cool device, and it was really well made as well. I was sort of expecting it to be this sort of cheaply made, plastic thing, and of course it was plastic in it, but it was just felt really nice. So, yeah, I was quite impressed with that as well. What, Garth?
I had to play with a Braille doodle, and I guess, a little. The only thing that I was a little disappointed in was the resolution of the drawing. Like, the dots were very far apart. So when you're doing a picture, you could. I would love to see one of these devices just like that, but with more
4K.
densely packed dots.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. Yeah, almost like drawing with dashed or dotted lines, right? Yeah, I will. Yeah, I will give you that.
It's like drawing with pegs in a pegboard.
Right.
Yes.
I think I reviewed this in our NFB coverage, the doodle. Does that have the Cartesian coordinates on it? So it's great for mathematical stuff if you're drawing geometry and lines. Does it sort of have like a...
Of course it does.
XY
yes.
axis. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
I don't know what that means, so I'm just going to say yes.
The XY axis. It had like a little...
axis, yes.
I thought that was some sort of Star Trek alien, but okay.
So okay.
It's interesting you mentioned that though, Garth, because I actually thought, this has got I'm going to use the term resolution. It's got a higher resolution than I thought it was going to have.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was going to be far less, almost like a Connect 4. But I was quite surprised it had more than I was expecting. But that was my first time getting hands-on with it. But that was nice.
Shaun, were there any surprises that leapt out at you that you weren't expecting? Was there any showstoppers or like, oh my goodness, I didn't know this existed product out there? And you can say no.
That's a good question. I hate to say it because we talked about it already, but yeah, I really did like the sonar, not sonar, the radar glasses. I must get used to saying that, from Lighthouse Tech. I did think they were... It was one of those things I came back with thinking I'm actually going to keep track of that, and it's something I had never seen before, as in that particular technology, that particular company. So I would say that surprised me. Other than that, no, not really, other than something I'm sure we're going to get into now when it comes to mobility, and that was, of course, the Glide.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a few devices in the mobility, but the one that most interests me is Glidance, of course. Did you get a chance to use it this time?
Of course I did. Yeah, last time I tried it was last year at Site Village in London.
Was that November?
I believe so.
Okay, so
dates.
about 6 months have gone by. So how much has changed since your last
Well,
test
quite
drive?
a lot, actually. So when I tried it, it was what they were nicknamed crunchy, because every time it steered, it went... and, and it was a little bit, it wasn't a smooth turning circle or things like that, but it was still impressive. I believe it was still at that point being remote controlled. So this one was the new version, very near final design, hardware design, and I was quite surprised how small it felt now. And this time it was autonomous. So I took it out onto the exhibition floor and walked around, and it was simply steering me around any obstacles. And you know what it's like, you go out without your cane and you just feel immediately awkward and I can't take a step, but I felt perfectly confident and at home with it. And
that is so cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was just walking along with it. It was gently turning me. It was really easy to tell which way it was going. And the new thing with this, which was actually an accident, I'm hoping it stays in for the final, was that if someone was walking towards me, for example, it actually reversed and pushed me back. And they said that was an accidental, software thing that they thought, well, we'll just, we'll take that out later on. But it was really strange. I thought it was fantastic. I really liked that because it just gave me more confidence.
If it gave you a little push back to say, "Help! Stop in a hurry right now," then that would be great. Yeah,
I thought
exactly.
the wheels had no motors. I thought that they could brake, but I didn't realize they could actually turn. Interesting.
That's absolutely right, because you pushed this. They're not motor driven, but there was absolutely something there that reversed it and pushed it back.
Gave you a little kickback, huh?
Yeah, it was really cool. And I said, I love this feature. Keep it in. So if it does stay in, that's my idea.
Thank you very much, Shaun.
That's really nice. And the only thing I did say was that, and again, look, this is prototype. The only thing I did say was that when it did break, it almost felt like I had hit something. Do you know what I mean? It was like, I'm not sure if I've run into someone's foot or if it's just broke.
It actually broke. Okay.
Yeah, in order to stop me walking into someone.
It braked.
Braked, yes, broke. It broke. Yes, if it had
No,
applied,
but I guess that's something
brakes.
you would learn you'd learn the feel of it as you used it. Yeah,
absolutely.
So
and they did say they're going to work on, maybe making it more subtle, ramping up the braking. But of course, it depends how fast you're going and how quickly you want it to brake. But yeah, I've got to say, look, that was freestyle mode. They didn't have the, route guidance enabled. They said they were close, but it was just too buggy to put out at the minute.
Yeah.
But that was freestyle mode. And again, I am so impressed. It's so funny, this glide journey, when it was first announced, I'm not pushing a vacuum in front of me. That's ridiculous. This is never going to work. And then you start hearing more and more, and you talk to the guys at Glidance, and you realize, the amount of feedback they're taking and the approach they're taking to it, they are just so cool. And I just think, from when I tried it at CSUN, I am in. I think this is going to be another option. This is going to be a serious option. Guide dog, cane, glide. I think it's going to happen.
Well, I went to put my money down, and it was closed for pre-orders at the moment, so I'm on the list to put a pre-order in when it does come out.
The queues were just out of the door again for people to want to get getting a demo of them.
They have done their. I almost don't want to use the word marketing, but they have done their marketing so well. More their communication style has been so on point the whole way through, hasn't it? In terms of just open, honest, we'll show you what we've got. Yes, this is not final yet, but this is what we're working towards. It's just been textbook.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, as we've said before, it's always a risk, right? You put a prototype out there that isn't finished, that isn't perfect, that, you want the feedback from to implement features or improve. There's a chance that people are going to come away with that saying, well, that didn't work very well. So it's a risky strategy, but it's really paid off. And I think it is down to the attitude of like Amos and Luke and Kyle and the others on the team. The interaction that you get, the interaction with the community has been great. It's been so open. They're not rushing it out, So, as long as there's no, I still kind of worry about sometimes if what people expect is actually going to be delivered. Maybe people may be expecting a little too much. I don't know. But from the hands-on trial that I had, I would love one of these myself, I think.
So did you put your money down, Shaun?
No, not yet. No. I haven't got the money spare to put down. But you know what? If I did have the money, I would pre-order. Absolutely.
Do we have an update on what the pricing structure is looking like at the moment?
I could speak on the latest because I actually have pre-ordered, right? So the hardware, their suggested retail price is $1,500 American. Mm-hmm. And then in addition, there's going to be the monthly subscription, which I think they're targeting a price point of no more than $30 a month for the service.
Yep.
And if you were to pre-order, I think you get I think that ship has sailed, but they were offering a substantial discount, maybe like a third off back last year, and your subscription was guaranteed to be no higher than $20. I think the range, depending on what package.
I wish I'd got in on that then.
Yeah. So,
what do you think about that subscription cost?
I think it's okay because they seem to be willing. You can stop and restart it. Like I could imagine in my particular situation, I probably would use it less in the winter with the snow conditions and stuff. I just don't think I would go up, so I could suspend it when I'm not going to use it and turn it on when I do. I look at it as they're almost giving you the hardware at cost, and then your use of it is the subscription service. So I don't mind it, and it's interesting. In contrast to the other apps, the subscription apps out there.
That's just what I was going to pick you up on.
I know. This is how much are you going to actually use it, and what are you going to get for your dollar subscription?
So can I just clarify, and for people who aren't aware, what's the difference between having the subscription and not having the subscription?
As far as I know, you need the subscription to use the device.
Full stop.
Full stop. You have no choice.
I thought it had some functionality in terms of obstacle avoidance, no guidance, no route, no find me the counter, but you can use it for basic obstacle avoidance, without a subscription. With the subscription, you get all that additional ongoing costs of AI. That would make sense to me in terms of you've purchased a physical product that does certain things.
Yes.
The additional cost for a subscription comes from the ongoing server / costs of, providing the AI functionality. I hope that's the model, because that makes complete sense and is completely fair to pay a subscription for, especially if I'm not going anywhere for a little while, I'm going to turn that off. Or I'm just going around the block where I know I just don't want to run into anything, whatever it is.
I can definitely speak to whether or not you need the subscription service to use the Glide, because I've been talking to the team and been reading about it to keep up to date. So yes, what they're calling the sensible wayfinding service is the subscription part, and that's the software component, and that's going to be the $30 per month. And the hardware, which is $1,500 US, gets you the device. And you need both of those to work together in order to navigate. And the software service has all the advanced features. That's the smart AI, the navigation, and that relies on both cloud-based AI models and your smartphone app. I guess I should say you would need a smartphone, either an Android or an iOS device, to actually use the Glide. So that's required. So it requires the full communication of the device, your smartphone, and then the cloud services. Now, that said, you do get some functionality if you've lost connection. So if you're in a place where your cell services go down or there's no Wi-Fi, be it underground or some poor spot, you're going to get the basic obstacle avoidance and sort of simple navigation and steering, but it's sort of going to be in that free-form mode as far as I understand it. And all this information I think you can find in the frequently asked questions section at Glidance.io. So I hope that clears things up a bit.
It's funny though, right? You talk about the price there, $1,500, but then, I mentioned that those radar glasses, $1,500, you kind of think, yeah, that's not a bad price, actually, with the Glide.
Yeah, absolutely.
iPhone Pro, Max.
Yeah.
50.
We spoke to NV Access. We spoke to Vispero. Of course, they're celebrating 30 years of Jaws.
30 years of Jaws.
Wow, yeah. The thing they announced was the Insert J Club, so a sort of community-driven where Jaws users can talk to each other and give tips, and there's special webinars and things like that. That sounded quite cool. Be My Eyes, obviously, were there.
Yeah, what were Be My Eyes? What did they announce, or what was the...
They were announcing Be My Eyes. Everyone loves Be My Eyes, but there was some...
Absolutely, I love Be My Eyes.
There were some business partnerships with airlines. I think Emirates was one of them.
Emirates, yes, I did see that, actually. That's very cool, actually.
Yes, very nice. And there were others as well. I can't quite remember them now, but there was some business partnerships that they've added to their long list already. Also, they mentioned that the Be My Eyes app is coming to Mac. There is someone working on that right now, which is very nice. I do like that on Windows, I've got to say. So you Mac users will get that soon. Again, the people behind Be My Eyes, Mike Buckley and everyone else, and Hans, they've just got a great attitude. Mike is always so up on looking about what's coming up in the future. He's looking at that future tech. Oh, and also on that, we did interview him. Again, check out doubletaponair.com/CSUN. We did an interview with Be My Eyes, and Mike Buckley did mention, we asked him specifically, what about that video? You know, the live video with the ducks and hailing a taxi. What about that? And he did say, you know, looking back, I think it was a mistake and I wouldn't do it again. Because basically, OpenAI wanted them to do that video. And obviously keeping a good relationship with OpenAI is important. But they haven't opened up that particular live video API.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, Be My Eyes can't do anything. They've obviously got the implementation there because they had it in the video. So they've got it there, but they can't access it. OpenAI aren't ready to open up that particular API yet. So he says, yeah, you know, in retrospect, I should have waited, or, you know, we should have made the decision to
should have got a date, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you know,
give us access. Yeah.
I mean, it's a great demo of the technology. Of course it is, but it was almost like it just built expectations way too much, and it's like, this is just around the corner, when in fact it isn't. You know, who knows how long it may be. But
again, though, you know, open, honest communication on point from Mike.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, that's all we need, right? I think we're, as a community, we're usually most of us are very patient, right, and understanding, and sort of see the work that goes on. So, yeah, absolutely. Again, you know, Be My Eyes Glidance, I think they're a bit of a leading light. How development in whatever field, software or hardware, should be done. I think they're really cool guys.
I think with Be My Eyes, I'm talking for myself here. I forget about the partner list. I use Be My AI all the time, and use Be My Eyes volunteers through the glasses sometimes. Yep. Completely forget to look and think about that partner list. So yeah, it's a good reminder to keep abreast of what's in there and utilize it when it's appropriate.
It so is. And it's affecting my travel choices because of their partnership with Hilton. That's my go-to hotel now. So if I am planning on staying someplace, I will look for a hotel that's partnered with Be My Eyes and a chain, and it's brilliant. You know, you've got direct connectivity to a representative who can help you in that property, and as well as the room. So
it's fantastic.
Well, I don't know. I think that just about rounds us up for CSUN. Is there any last things that you can think of, Shaun, that you want to mention?
Parties were nice. Very good. Vespero had a very nice party. So did Be My Eyes. I saw a very nice cane there. I've forgotten the guy's name, which is a shame. A guy there who's been run over a couple of times. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh at that. He's been hit by a car a few times, and therefore has designed a light-up cane which would delight you, kayaker. It was so bright I could see it. So
wow, that's
cane,
good.
And the whole thing just lit up bright white all the way down. None of this, part of it, or it was really cool. Sadly, he did say if you come on and use it around the exhibition hall, you can take one. And I thought, oh yes, I want one of those. It's not foldable, so I'm not sure how I would have got it on the plane and back.
It's an old-fashioned.
It's a solid
cane.
tube. Yeah, it's a solid cane. So,
yeah.
But still, very cool. Battery life was around 2 hours. They are working on a new model now. It was called the See Me cane. Cane. So definitely check that one out. He was a really cool guy, and as I said, he invented this after having been hit in the dark, or not being seen out when using his cane. So it was a really cool thing. Again, just going back to the social aspect, really nice. So good to meet everyone there. The hotel, I stayed at the Marriott where the actual CSUN conference is, so that made it really easy. Good Maps was mapped in the hotel, so I could make it from Starbucks to the elevators myself, which was nice. It was generally, I would love to go back, put it that way. I think it was a really good experience, and the atmosphere was really nice.
So I know you kind of wimped out a little bit and had Jane helping you guys, but tell me more about the Good Maps and the property. Like, was it overwhelming? How's your mobility skills in that? How'd you find the hotel, the restaurants? How did everything work out as just a tourist traveler to CSUN rather than a correspondent? How did that go?
Well, my mobility isn't great anyway. I haven't got the confidence, but I did use good maps from the elevator to Starbucks and Starbucks back to the elevator. Worked perfectly fine until day one of the exhibition. We were sat in Starbucks having a coffee before going in, and I had to run up to the room. Can't remember why. I forgot my pass, I think. Had to run up to the room, and I said, yeah, rather than someone taking me up, I'll just use good maps. So opened up good maps, moved it left and right. Yep, know where you are. Okay, go this way. Went that way, straight into a table full of people. Okay, no, go right a bit, straight into another table. The gap in between where it wanted me to go was so small. But anyway, it's okay. Say sorry and carry on. So carried on, and it started taking me the right way, and I was walking and walking. But there were so many people there. The crowds were building up, and I don't know if that was interfering with the camera or whatever, but it started to get confused, and it just kept saying left, and I was like, well, I'm walking next to a wall. I can't go left.
There is no more left.
Yeah, there is no more left available. So that was the first time that, because I did use good maps traveling to the airport, from Manchester to Glasgow to Dublin.
So this is the one that's the same one that's used in the train stations in London.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah,
and that worked really well, even though all those people were there. That you didn't have the people problem in the tubes.
What? No. See, that's why I was slightly confused, because I did use it in Manchester Piccadilly train station, and that was heaving. And I was able to, I got dropped off in the taxi. I was able to make my way up the escalators and through the concourse all the way to the passenger assistance, and it was amazing. I mean, it was...
Gosh, I want to try this.
It was.
I really wish
I want to go back to England just to do this good map stuff in the train stations.
Yeah.
No, it's really cool. It just you move it left and right. You got to hold it out in front of you, obviously the camera, and it just says, okay, got the thing, and just continue. And you would just carry on walking and say, okay, left a bit, or it might say 1 o'clock, 11 o'clock, things like that, depending on how you have it set. But as I said, it's not just. Because you kind of think, okay, this is sort of GPS style, right? But obviously it's not using that technology. It's using the camera. But it's when you get to like the passenger assistance has almost like a chest height counter. And then just to the right of it is a little gap where you actually walk in, and then the actual counter where people are inside. So I got to the general area, and then it said, the opening is just to your right. And it's that sort of thing. So it's good. Just like, that makes all the difference, right? It's that last 10 yards thing. But of course, the sticking point is it's got to be pre-mapped. Yeah, if it's not pre-mapped,
of course.
You could use it in the lobby. You could use it in the, to get to the restaurants and things like that. As soon as you got to your hotel room or to the corridors, upper floors, not mapped. You couldn't go through the list of locations and find, room 16 or whatever. They weren't mapped. So for that, I got out of the elevator and then just opened up Seeing AI, walked down the corridor, just read out all the room numbers. They were in Braille as well. Yeah. So obviously for that location, the accessibility was pretty good. The TVs all spoke, all had voice guidance. Yeah, it was actually it was quite a nice experience. I wasn't that anxious, and as you say,
good.
Kayaker, we had people there, we had assistants who could help us if we needed it. But
and you mostly speak the language.
Yes, that's right. Well, and plus, what it is? You get a bunch of blind people together. You don't care as much anyway, because we're all bumping into each other, right? Yeah. Sorry, mate. Yeah, carry on. It's fine. And the amount of people that bumped into me as I was sat there or stood there, looking at a booth or talking to someone at a booth, some of them would bump into, that's all right, don't worry about it. And then, are you Shaun? I said, yeah. Hey! So it was a great way to meet people. So, yeah, if you can afford CSUN, it's not cheap, obviously, getting over there, depending on where you are in the world and, staying and that. But if you can afford it, I would say it's something I think, you should try. It's fantastic.
I would love to do one of those conferences. And, I had vague notions of doing this one. Had
circumstances been different.
Yeah. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
When we put in the Audio Pizza subscription model,
Yeah, there we go.
We'll take it out of the audio pizza budget. It'll be fine.
I'll get to the airport maybe.
I'll give a very special shout out to Sarah
Yes, Sarah.
for allowing you to travel out. I think that was very kind of her to let you leave the house and go off to...
You know what?
So, you know.
Actually, I will say this, being serious for a minute. While I was away, and we've been kind of working up to this, Sarah's mobility isn't great. She hasn't got the confidence to go out. While I was away, she got up in the morning and she took the dog out on her own. It's a big deal, right? And
It is.
It's
It
like
really is.
I can remember, the first time going out with a cane and trying to overcome that. Yeah, she did it every day I was gone. She got up really early, less people around to watch you. That old trick.
Mm-hmm.
So she's really getting a feel for using the cane. Getting over that anxiety, getting over that fear of what happens when you do get lost. And she did get lost once. Hit a parked car on the pavement and sort of got turned around and, the usual.
So easy to do.
Absolutely.
So
I
easy to
said,
do.
I still get lost. I've been walking that for years and years. I still get lost on it. The trick is, is not to panic. You will find familiarity somewhere, or at the final point, you will ring someone and say, all right, come and get me. I don't know where I am.
Yep.
So, I just thought that was really cool. She said she sat down at the park bench one day and it was she realized this is like either the first or the second time she's been out on her own in like 20 years.
That is so significant.
It is though,
that's
right?
just-
And you kind of think it can't be 20 years, but we've been together for 30 odd years and you think actually that's probably right because she wants to go out, I go with her, and so yeah. Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just thought that was very cool. So yes.
You can never underestimate. Like we've all had those situations where sort of the anxiety overtakes you, and you don't want to be going out because especially the first time you're using a cane.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It really is a thing you have to get through, and
It is.
Yeah, that's.
And I think it's important to say, that Sarah's not unusual in that.
No.
Because I think a
No.
lot of people think, if I'm not trekking down Kilimanjaro, then I'm failing somehow. But I think there's a lot more people out there that simply say, well, I can't go out on my own anymore. And some people get stuck in that. And it's so easy to do and so understandable.
Yep.
If you'd like to reach out to us, our email address is sgk@theblind.ninja. That'll go to all three of us.
SGK@theblind.ninja.
SGK@theblind.ninja.
All right, everybody. I'd like to thank Shaun for going out to Anaheim and giving us all this great firsthand information. And we'll be back next month with another episode. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Oh, I'm going to have a little sleepy while you guys do the show, okay?
Yeah, you wake up, Garth. Wake up. Get with the
What
program.
did he say? What did you say? What did he just say
He
then?
said, I'm just going to sleep. You guys handle the program.
That's ridiculous. Have you got a coffee?
I'm just finishing my tea first, and then I'm going to get onto my coffee.
That is so weird.
I've also got a little hot plate.
Why have you got a hot plate? Are you making burgers while you're there? What are you
No.
talking about?
Like it's just a cup-sized hot plate to put your cup on to keep it warm.
Why don't you drink it like in an appropriate time after making it?
Well, that's what I'm doing with the tea, but I can't drink the tea and the coffee at the same time.
Why did you make a cup of tea and a cup of coffee? That's
So
madness.
I agree. Thank you, Shaun. I'm with you.
So-
Madness.
No, I like my cup of tea first, and then I have my coffee, right? But
Okay.
I don't want to rush off mid-show and
Yes.
make my coffee, because that would annoy you two. So I made my coffee ahead of time, and it's sitting waiting on its hot plate.
Weirdo.
I'm more concerned about the fact that I didn't get to do my first of the day. That's more the concern.
Do we need to pause?
Well, if you do need to rush off, that's fine. Just don't tell us. Hit it, Kayaker.
How do I usually start the show? Hello and welcome to Audio Pizza. Today, Oh, no, scratch that. Hold on. I've got something better in my head.
Blooper 1.
I've had a play with the doodle. Oh, let me say that again because I'm not going to leave it in. I had a play with the doodle.
Please do.
Blooper.
Kayaker, if we have to continue using iMessage because of your, I'm going to say it, stubbornness, I am going to kill you. What's wrong with WhatsApp? What's wrong with WhatsApp? What's wrong with WhatsApp? Wait. I'm in a Zoom room on my own. Have I got the wrong link? Can you chuck a WhatsApp link in here? No, Zoom link. Thank you. L is for the way you look at me. Still here. Hello. O is for the only one I see. Yeah. V. I know it's 6 a.m. or something in that there Australia. It's not the point. E is even more than anyone that I adore and love. F is more than just a game for two. If. I just read the text message. 8:30, you say. Go back to sleep. I'll see you in a bit. Shh. Sorry. Very, very sorry.